All right, hello, this is Karla Patten, and I'm with Bliss Sawyer today. She's with Security Home Mortgage, and we just wanted to discuss the market because I'm sure you all heard the market is shifting, right? You would have to live under a rock if you had not heard that. But the question is like, what is happening and what's real, what's, in the news, what's not real, all that. So that's why I'm talking with Bliss today and I wanted to give you a little bit of stats too. So just today, we now have 9,952 listings, which is 142% more than we did last year at this same date. Last year, we only had 4,100. So as you can see, our inventory is definitely higher. But here's the interesting thing. So under contract, last year, we were under contract with 7,800 homes. This year, we're only under contract with 5,300. So that is down 32%. So that is why the market is, or that's one reason the market is shifting. It's showing us that it's shifted, but the main factor, I believe, is because of interest rates. The buyers have slowed down and made them nervous. So, Bliss, let me ask you, what's your opinion on the interest rates and how that's affecting our market?
Such a great topic, and I am so glad that we're having this interview, Karla, because I think it's really important for people to understand, because for some it really truly feels like the sky is falling, right? And when you feel that, you lose confidence in the market, and you kind of think this is what it is and this is how it's going to stay. I've been doing this 31 years. Karla, you've been doing it, I think, almost as long. We've been through these cycles before, and that's exactly what it is. It's a cycle. And so what happened was the feds really, our government really pushed a stimulus in during the pandemic, right? Billions and millions of dollars into our economy, which caused interest rates, we just plummeted down into the twos. And honestly, the Feds should have started raising interest rates in 2021 to slowly ease back into that. They didn't. So we had such low interest rates and such a high demand for housing that the market went crazy. House prices went up. Some houses went up double in price, right? Because rates were so low, people could afford to pay more for the house. And so starting early this year, we finally started to see the Fed step in and say, whoa, we have got to tame inflation, right? We've got to get this under control before it gets too bad. And so they started to raise rates, and they raised them more aggressively than they have ever done before. Pretty much the smartest people in the industry at the beginning of this year did not correctly predict how high interest rates would go. They thought they would be in the mid, maybe upper fives, and we are now close to 7%. That's an insane increase in a very small amount of time, basically putting the brakes on the housing market. You've got a lot of builders that are just seeing people left and right back out of the houses they're building, because when they started building, their house payment was going to be $2,300, let's say. Now their house payment is going to be $3,200. And they're like, nope, peace out, right? I'm going to stay living with mom and dad. I'm going to stay in my rental, or I'm going to stay in my townhome instead of doing that, right? So we're seeing a lot of people back out of contracts. And so you're starting to see price reductions on houses, which that's the positive thing if you're a buyer. There's a phrase, of course, going around the mortgage industry that you've probably heard, and it is marry the house and date the rate. Meaning within a, 1 to 3 year time period, you're going to be able to refinance that rate you have right now and get your house payment down. Hopefully your income continues to go up, so you just put yourself in a better position, but you locked in your house price now. I really do anticipate that a little bit into next year, so 2023, we're going to see this inflation kind of turn into a recession, which then makes mortgage rates come down. Once that starts to happen, good news, right? Once that starts to happen, we still have a housing shortage in Utah. That's not gone away. People just have decided to stay where they're at, right? Whether it's multiple families living in one unit or people not upsizing or downsizing. Right? Yeah. Right. Once we start to see rates go down, we're actually going to see a lot of buyers flood back into the market. And so if you're a buyer right now, and I know when you see these rates and these house payments, right, it's very shocking. If you've been looking over the last couple of years, it's extremely shocking to look at those numbers. And that's why a lot of people are just saying, peace out. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to wait. And for some people, that's definitely the right decision to wait.
Right.
But if you really want a choice of the house and the neighborhood and the amenities that you want, and you have the income to support that payment, again, hopefully just for a year or two, you're going to have that payment. It's actually a brilliant time to be a buyer.
I
And
agree. Yeah. In fact, I've gotten my buyers, one just we closed just a week ago and they got $8,500 in credits from the seller to go towards their closing costs.
yeah,
I've had one that had a home to sell. I mean, we've never seen that for a couple of years,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
it really is a good time
Contingencies.
to be a buyer.
We had
Yeah.
one recently, the seller is paying a 2-1 buy down. So the first
Yes.
year, their house payment is 2% lower. The second year, it's 1% lower. And then it goes to that start rate of, say, 6.5%. So first year, 4.5, second year, 5.5. And the seller is paying for that. And the cool thing about something like that is, let's say in 12 months, the interest rates drop down enough that it's worthwhile to refinance, but you've got another, $3,000-4,000 in that account to help make that payment for another year. You actually get a refund of that money. So
I
there's
know.
some seller concessions right now that are happening that help make it more attractive to buy a house. So here's the thing, whether you talk to Karla or myself about that, we're really going to be able to help you see the pros and cons, because it's not a good time for everybody, right? For some people, I have an older lady right now, her husband passed away. She really wants to downsize, doesn't want a yard, put her house on the market. And when we started running the numbers at the higher interest rates where they're at right now, it is not in her best interest to do it right now. And so she's going to take her house off the market. We're going to watch it really close for her. And in her situation, it's better to wait till next year, right?
Yeah.
And so it really depends on a lot of factors. Your employment, your income, has it recently gone up? Do you feel comfortable, at least for a short time, with this payment? Where's your down payment coming from, right? What does that look like? But if you are in a position to buy a house and those numbers do line up, I just can't say it strongly enough, right? You have choices and you have sellers willing to give you concessions. Where 6 months ago, which is when I sold my house in Lehigh and I had, 6 offers in the first 12 hours, they basically waived the inspection and I got, like, I don't know, $25,000 non-refundable earnest money. I mean, it's crazy what they offered to me to buy my house. Well, those tables are opposite now. The
Yep.
sellers are going to offer or be willing to look at anything you're asking them, and now granted, every seller's situation is different. Obviously, if a seller recently dropped his house 50,000, he might not have room to pay 10,000 in a 2-1 buy down, but it doesn't hurt to look and it doesn't hurt to ask. And
Well,
so, yeah,
and one thing I was going to add too, I mean, not only is those good reasons to be a buyer, but where I just said our inventory is up 142%. So you now have more choices. You don't have to settle.
yeah,
A year ago, my buyers, I mean, some of them were settling. They just
yeah,
wanted a home. And so,
yeah,
maybe they wanted the 3-car garage, but they sold for a 2-car garage. You don't have to do that anymore as a buyer. So that's the good news too. And I just want to add, and I feel like now is the time to just make sure you have an expert who can explain the market to you. And like Bliss said, let's just make sure it's the right time for you, and
yeah.
we'll,
Well, and
we'll help you.
Carla, that a lot of people are worried that the housing prices are going to continue to go down and crash. And that's a valid concern. Don't get me wrong,
Right.
but we have a lot of statistics that show we still have a housing shortage, right? And so as interest rates improve, more buyers will come into the market and will then turn back into a seller's market. So
Yeah.
we could see house prices go a little bit lower. They definitely could. But
Right.
long term, we're still going to have a house appreciation. We don't have the same factors affecting the housing market that we did in 2008. So yes,
Right.
house prices have come down, right? That,
Yep.
that's just a fact. But as far as a true crash, which I think is 3 consecutive quarters of declining appreciation, well, I guess depreciation.
Yeah.
We're not in that yet, right? And I don't think we will be, based on the information that we have. We have
Yes.
especially in Utah, we have an extremely high, strong job market, and then we have a housing shortage. Now, the people that needed housing before, they all had some place to live. They weren't wandering around homeless, you know, they're just staying there, whether it be that rental or multiple family units living within one household, or that, the widow that I'm working with that wants to size down. They're just staying where they are. So again, when that market starts to turn and rates start to go down, I think we're going to shift back into a seller's market. So that's a really good reason to be a buyer right now. probably one of the most advantageous times to be a buyer if you can take out that interest rate part of it. That's the hard thing. But when rates start to come down, it will shift back to a seller's market.
It will. And we're still not even out of a seller's market because we have 4.5 months of inventory, meaning we're still a little short on inventory, even though our inventory is, almost doubled. But yeah, so definitely going to be interesting. And I think spring we could be back into a little bit of a frenzy. Who knows? Depends what interest rates do.
And that's what I love about you, Karla, is that you're really going to give your buyers that guidance of what their options are, and then buyers, you take all that information and then you do what you feel best about. But
Exactly.
just gather the information. It doesn't cost anything to talk to Karla or to me. Get our opinions, look at the numbers on paper, and see what feels good to you, and even take a little bit of time to ponder it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's the joy of right now versus 6-12 months ago. You didn't have time to think. If you needed to buy a house, you literally couldn't think about it. You had to just go make offer above. And so we're in a really nice time right now where people can take time to ponder and think about it and not necessarily make this huge decision so quickly.
Right.
So, cool.
Yeah. And you don't have to put earnest money non-refundable right away, which is hallelujah.
Thank goodness. And waive appraisals and all of that. Thank goodness
Right.
for all of that. So I love this time that we're in right now because interest rates are temporary, right?
I agree. Yep. But well, Bliss, it's been a pleasure, and
Thanks.
we'll talk to you later.
All right. I appreciate it, Karla. Thanks so much.
All right. Okay. Bye.